Happy Halloween, and welcome to the Korruption Studios Halloween Special. We will be discussing all horror-related topics today for this special episode covering the most recent movie news, TV news, and anime news. Please refer to the timestamps in the video for easy guidance. Let's get started. Starting out with movies, I'd like to start with Barbarian. This movie is insane. It just released September 9th, but it came on HBO Max earlier this week, and critics have been giving this movie good ratings across the board. So I thought, hey, I might as well go in blind and check this out. And I was not disappointed. I actually advise you, if you're going to watch this movie, please go in blind. Don't learn anything about this movie. I wouldn't even watch a trailer. I watched one trailer, which wasn't really a spoiler. It's called Justin Long's new movie, and I can't say as to why that was kind of a confusing trailer, because that would be a little bit of a spoiler. But I will say, if you go in blind, I think it's a great watch, and I definitely recommend watching Barbarian. You could watch it now on HBO Max, as it just released there earlier this week. The next movie I'd like to talk about is also a movie that has already released, and this one is called Smile. Now, this one released September 30th, and I had seen this one in theaters, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. The movie has a good bit of jump scares and also follows a good dialogue to make sure that you're not falling asleep during the movie. It follows Dr. Rose after she witnesses a bizarre, unexplained experience with a patient who also has a very creepy smile. She slowly starts to go insane as the same events her patient explained begins happening to her. Now, this is very similar to the show Evil on Paramount Plus. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I also recommend that show. I feel like this movie is kind of synonymous to that show, but also, this movie as a standalone film is just really good. I would say that it's kind of like It Follows, but it's a fresh idea, and I think that's what we all respect about Smile, and that's why I like it. I haven't seen anything quite like it, and it's very eerie, and that makes the whole story come together, and I like it. I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, go out to the theaters and go see it, because it'll definitely be worth your money. The next movie announcement that we have is going to be Saw X, and this one is going to be releasing October 27th, 2023. Now, the Saw series has been one of the most intelligently written series of all time. Even though it's horror, you see a level of genius in writing. It's terrifying, gruesome, and brutal, but also very smart how they construct traps that almost seem impossible to imagine. Be on the lookout in the future for this new Saw film next year around this time. And the last movie announcement that we have is for The Grinch. No, this isn't a joke. The Grinch actually has a horror movie coming out soon called The Mean One. This will portray the Grinch as he's always been, a horrific green monster. The Grinch is a very creepy character. I mean, I've always found him a bit sinister. He's something straight out of your nightmares, but he tries to play the nice guy, or rather, he was made to be the nice guy in the end, although he's always sat very uneasy with me. This holiday season, we will get to witness the Grinch in his true form on December 15th, 2022. And that wraps up the movie announcements. Next, I want to talk about something that you might have heard of before, the Poltergeist Curse. The first Poltergeist movie was made in 1982. It followed a ghost haunting a family in their house. Cast members started randomly dying in bizarre ways in real life. Some think that this was due to real skeletons, yes, real skeletons being used in the movie instead of props due to budget control. Jo Beth Williams, who played the main character, stated that she assumed the skeletons were made out of plastic or rubber. She was wrong. The oldest daughter in the first movie was found brutally murdered in her driveway months after the first movie released. On the set of the second film, an exorcism was done by Will Sampson, a star of the film. A year later, Will Sampson died to kidney failure. Reverend Cain, the antagonist in the movie, also passed away from stomach cancer before the film hit theaters. The most broadcasted death was the little girl from the movie. Her name was Heather O'Rourke, who passed away right before Poltergeist 3 was released. This was due to cardiac arrest and septic shock from a misdiagnosis. There was also an axe attack and a plane crash that occurred to two separate cast members of the franchise. Is it a curse? I'll let you decide. Moving on to TV news. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror premiered last night on Fox. It parodied The Babadook and Death Note. I really enjoyed the Death Note part. It was done really well, and that's because they worked with an official anime studio. Funny enough, it did a great job at basically giving the whole show in a couple minutes. You could probably find it on YouTube now if you want to see it. Moving on, we have a bit of lighthearted fun with the new Scooby-Doo series, Velma. This will feature the origin story of Velma, and this is not a kids show. It will be adult-themed with brand new characters being brought into the universe. This will release on HBO Max, but a certain release date has not yet been set. Please keep checking Korruption Studios for an update to the release date. The last TV announcement that I have today is for Wednesday Addams. Now, this show is going to be titled Wednesday, but it's following the little girl from the Addams family. If you're unfamiliar with the Addams family, it's probably the strangest family in the world. They have a strange addiction with blood and also violence. The director Tim Burton, who has also worked on Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, will be coming in to direct this show. Unfortunately, this won't be released before Halloween, and the release date is set for November 23rd, next month. I'll leave the trailer in the description so that you can see the true horrors that this little girl can do. That concludes all of the TV news, and now we will be moving on to the anime news. I want to start with the best show ever made, Attack on Titan. It's very entertaining, inspiring, and also makes you think. The final part is coming in January 2023, and if you haven't ever seen it, I'd recommend that you give it a try. Moving forward, we've seen the hyped release of Chainsaw Man. Denji, a boy plagued by debt from the mob because of his now dead father, works as a demon hunter. Unfortunately, he runs into trouble which causes him to almost lose his life before he's saved by a dog. This dog merges bodies with him and he becomes the Chainsaw Man. It's a really good shonen and a really refreshing watch. Kind of reminds me of the first time I watched Jujutsu Kaisen show as well, and I'm definitely going to be watching this whole season. You can watch this on either Hulu or Crunchyroll. I really want to throw in My Hero Academia, as this isn't really a scary show, but also in the last season, season 5, and also season 6, we do see some very dark themes, the darkest we've ever seen in the show, which started out being a very playful, kind of kid show. It's now evolved into complete darkness, and without spoiling it, I will say that this show is just great, and I highly recommend that you watch it. Or if maybe you dropped it in the past because it was just going too slow or you didn't really understand the direction, it's heating up now, and I would definitely advise you to pick it back up and start watching it again, because it is highly entertaining. I really enjoyed season 5 and also season 6. Right now is probably the peak of the whole series, so it's amazing. Go ahead and watch that. If you dropped it or if you've never watched it before, season 5 and season 6, that's where it's at. And the new season 6 is currently airing on Crunchyroll and releases new episodes every Sunday. Lastly, I want to talk about Junji Ito. Now, Junji is the godfather of horror. He literally makes all of the best horror manga, which is kind of like comics, in Japan. He is literally the #1 artist of all horror because you can get nightmares just by looking at one of his artworks. He has a Netflix show releasing on January 19th, 2023 called Japanese Tales of the Macabre. This will feature 20 adaptations of Junji's work. Junji is truly a horror mastermind. Junji Ito has a show already out on Crunchyroll called Junji Ito's Collection, which I thought was really good and really terrifying. And when I'm saying really terrifying, this might be scarier than any movie I've seen recently. This show features adaptations of Junji's work, and his work is often the most terrifying, horrifying, random, crazy, insane, bizarre things happening. Junji's whole model is taking a concept and making it worse and worse and worse until it spirals out of control. He's also working on a show for Adult Swim called Uzumaki. Now, Uzumaki is the most terrifying book I've ever read. I just bought it earlier this week and I'm already about halfway through, and I've got to say, it is literally terrifying. Like, this will keep you up at night. Seriously. This is the Halloween special, so I will give you a look into my favorite chapter of Junji's Uzumaki book. The chapter title is The Scar. The chapter starts out with a girl named Azumi. Azumi has a strange crescent moon on her forehead. It's a scar that she got when she was a kid from falling off a contraption at recess. Rumors at her high school say that the scar on her forehead would work like a spell, which made boys attracted to her. More so, obsessed. Even though it seemed like Azumi could get whoever she wanted, she was cold to all of them. She would get them obsessed and then dump them. Azumi was friends with the main character of the book, Kiri. Even though the spell part was a rumor, Azumi did admit to the main character, Kiri, she could have anyone she wanted. This made Kiri visibly uneasy. Kiri later tells Azumi that she met Suichi, her boyfriend, at the train station. Azumi asks if Suichi is her boyfriend, and Kiri hesitantly says yes, which is met with Azumi asking if she could meet him. With some concerns, Kiri thinks it'll be okay and agrees to let Azumi meet Suichi. Upon meeting, Suichi erratically starts yelling at Azumi, saying, "It's you! Go away!" Later on, Kiri calls Suichi, asking what's up with him. He says that looking at her is like looking down from a high place. Azumi comes back to Suichi the next day confused as to why her spell doesn't work on him, and she tries to charm him again. Azumi comes back to Suichi the next day confused as to why her spell doesn't work on him. He says that the scar on her forehead is a spiral, not a crescent moon. She reveals it to herself and realizes that he's right. She then becomes obsessed with Suichi and knocking on his door daily, and even wanting to move out of her home closer to where he's at. Kiri confronts Azumi and tells her that she's already Suichi's girlfriend, but their conversation gets interrupted by a whirlwind. The whirlwind now reveals that the spiral on her forehead has gotten abnormally large. Azumi runs away. A couple days pass and Azumi hasn't been to school, but has been kept up in her room. Suichi receives a call to meet someone who he thinks is going to be Kiri. The someone that he received a call from is a guy named Okada, who is obsessed with Azumi, unbeknownst to Suichi. Kiri spots Azumi outside of her home, yet she's wearing a hat very low, concealing her face. "Hey, Azumi?" And Azumi then reveals her face. Her face is now half spiral. Kiri, in shock, is held up on a wall, looking in horror. In the distance, she sees Suichi talking to Okada. They are discussing who Suichi is supposed to meet there. "There she is," says Okada. Azumi is now revealed, with her whole face being a spiral, which is one of the most horrifying images I've ever seen. She ends up eating Okada and then eating herself until there's no trace of her left. Uzumaki follows the story of the Spiral, a town that is possessed by spirals. Whoever knew that spirals could be made to be so terrifying? Happy Halloween.